And
We
so
are
I
live.
said, "Oh my goodness, we're
We are
going live."
live. Oh my goodness.
We are live.
Oh
Hello,
my
everybody. Welcome to the channel. My name is Nate, and with me today are my two brothers-in-law, which are true brothers-in.
Not bad.
Yeah, it sucks. Whatever. Under me is Uncivil Law. Say hello to the people. Uncivil Law.
What's up? What's up?
And to the, I'm not sure. This way is Viva. Viva, say hello to the people.
How's it going, people?
So today, now, Kurt, how do we get involved in this Millie Weaver thing? Kurt, tell the people how Viva has gotten us involved in this. Go ahead.
Well, apparently Viva is deep in the QAnon, and so he's here to do the talking points for them. And one of their talking points is to spread the innocence of Millie. So free Millie is the talking point. Yeah.
You know what? Here's the thing, and I'm doing a follow up, and I'm gonna have to eat some of my words. I still believe in the free Millie because at this point, I'm of the opinion that even if the allegations are true and it is a purely domestic dispute as described in the police report, it's still excessive as far as I'm concerned, if not weaponizing the process. But I definitely have to not walk back, but rather qualify my initial connection to assuming the burglary charge related to the documents. It would be like one of those exam questions where the answer might be right in law, but it's misapplied to the facts at issue.
But everybody keeps saying this burglary charge. I looked at the indictment. I didn't see any burglary charge.
So that's the thing. Now, initially, when it was reported Friday, they said burglary, and it was the day of the release of the documents. There was an issue about the leaker in the documentary also getting into trouble with the law. So the assumption was the burglary related to obtaining the classified documents that were featured in the documentary. In the final police report of the indictment, it turned into robbery, which is different than burglary, but relating to how they stole the cell phone from the mother. So
quite a lot different. Very different things.
Well, you know what? Let me see. Which one of you guys knows the story the best to kind of just give us like a breakdown of just what happened, right?
I think I know it well enough.
Go ahead.
Kurt, do you want to do it or do you want me to do it?
No, you got this one.
Well, so I didn't, until Friday of last week, I didn't know who Millie Weaver was. And I'm doing, we were doing a live stream with Kurt and Eric Hunley. And so somebody says in the chat, it's like, you're going to talk about Millie Weaver or are you going to shill for the NWO? I was like, well, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm going to look into it. So Millie Weaver is, she's an independent journalist. She's not employed with InfoWars, but she is on contract work with them, or she's done contract work with them. She released her documentary, which was called Shadowgate, not Spygate, Shadowgate, the day that she was apparently arrested by the police. And the initial reports were arrested for burglary because she's getting arrested. She's live streaming or she's recording the incident as it happens. Police say, we don't have your papers here. Come down to the station. We'll give them to you. But it's burglary. And she says, burglary for what? So then everyone was operating on the basis, or there was a direct connection made between burglary and the classified documents that might have been in the documentary. And so, I was operating on the thesis, is it burglary if you get fed classified documents? Just, operating on the basis of those facts.
Maybe they can get you with conspiracy, like say if I told you or if I knew you were going to get the documents, maybe you on a theory of conspiracy to commit burglary.
Exactly, and I think that was one of the charges. It was with Manning, and I don't want a dead name. I'm in trouble for that, but that was one of the issues as to whether or not someone saying, "Hey, go steal me the documents, give them to me." Are they conspiring to commit burglary and theft as well? So day one, everyone just it was. As the facts played out, it just looked like it related to burglary, theft of documents that were featured in the documentary. So, I cover the story. Because I'm a decent lawyer, cover my tushy and say, maybe all the allegations are right, but there are three possibilities. And, is this weaponizing the process like with Julian Assange? What ends up happening is over the weekend, it comes out that someone named Felicia McCarran, who is in fact Millie's mother, posts a comment on a YouTube video saying this all started over a $50 cell phone, a squabble back in April. And then everyone's like, well, this makes even less sense because nobody gets 4 secret indictments for stealing a $50 cell phone from your mother in April. But lo and behold, on Monday, she was held in jail over the weekend with her husband. So 2 parents taken away from their kids, 2 young kids, 4 months and 9 years, I think. Maybe I'm wrong on the ages. Monday morning, the indictments are unsealed, released. And yeah, it looks like it stemmed from an April incident where the mother, who had come to stay with them from Beverly Hills, during the COVID because she lost her job, says that they were berating her, insulting her, verbally abusing her. And so she records such an incident one morning in April. And Millie, her husband, whose name is Wes, I think his name, Millie, her husband, and her brother think that the mother's recording the incident. They apparently grab her, take her cell phone, allegedly throw her to the ground. The brother takes the cell phone out to the back of the property, throws it away. And that's the incident in April. Mm-hmm. The secret indictments were dated July 20th, 2020. And it took nearly 4 weeks to execute the indictments, which also raised a bunch of questions. Then apparently Child Protective Services were in court on Monday as well. Long story short, those were the 4 indictments: robbery, tampering with evidence, obstruction of justice, and domestic violence.
Yeah.
So those were the 4 indictments. And she was released. They got the kids back. Meantime, Ezra Levant from Rebel Media set up a GoFundMe page, which raised $160,000 at last check for the legal fees. And that's it. So like it went from one, I really don't want to use, I just bit my tongue. I don't want to use the word conspiracy theory because I think it's overused and abused. It went from one presumption that the robbery, the burglary related to having obtained the documents for the documentary, to a totally separate incident of some family squabble during a pandemic. The mother called the cops and the poo-poo hit the fan 6 months later, which raises even more questions as to, how this can happen and what went on. So I think, Kurt, I did pretty good.
Oh, you did fantastic.
It totally makes sense. And someone in chat asked what the difference between burglary and robbery is. Burglary is if you go into someone's property to steal property. Robbery is if you take it from someone's person, from their control.
With force, with
force, of course. Yeah. So the idea here is that this was the mother's cell phone and essentially took it out of her hand, as it were, in order to do with it whatever to make it her own, and that would constitute a robbery.
Well, wouldn't the act, if you're taking the cell phone first, robbery? I think even in Ohio, you don't actually have to hit the person. You can just a threat of force, right? Sure. I'm going to kick. If you don't give it to me, I'm going to kick your behind. That's a robbery. It's a strong arm robbery. So I think here you may have that yelling, and you may have a strong arm robbery. I'll push you down and take your cell phone. That's the first thing I'm thinking about charging you with. You have the force, which is the push, and you have the cell phone, which is the theft. A strong arm robbery.
According to the mother, they did push her to the ground, took her cell phone, and apparently, according to the police report, I didn't see the police report, but I read a review of it in the Cleveland Times or something. The story that the brother said didn't make sense. He claimed that the mother had lost the cell phone 2 days earlier, but there were text messages with a priest that the mother was texting from the day of the incident. So apparently the story didn't make much sense. One important fact I forgot to mention, and then get the super chat afterwards. Apparently the mother signed an affidavit of non-prosecution, not way back when, but rather on the weekend where the daughter was arrested. So apparently they no longer have her cooperation. And she's either lying in the affidavit for non-prosecution or she lied in the initial police report. So the two stories don't make sense. So it's not clear where the story doesn't make sense. But sorry, go ahead.
No, well, you know what? Just putting on my cop brain and listening to this situation. The first thing I want to think about is what could the cops have? Because you don't need the mom to make the case, right? If she was recording it and you got a recording of the incident, the mom's now becomes irrelevant. I got the tape. I got the tape, The mom, she could be helpful to have her testimony, but I don't need it. I got the tape. So if there was a tape involved, that would make it seem like why, even if the mom says, I don't want to testify, I don't want to be helpful. Okay, but we still have a tape here, and the prosecution, I know here, the prosecution, it's funny because I think a lot of people fall into this trap of pressing charges, but it's the state that decides whether they're going to force charges or not. It is not me pressing charges. If they can prove that crime without me, without the victim, that person can still go to prison. Go ahead, Kurt.
Yeah, you're right in paper that's true, but I don't think that's true in practice, especially when you're talking about a $50 cell phone. If you don't have a complaining witness anymore, or the person who's the complainant, the person who is injured, who says, I don't care anymore, I don't want to prosecute this. Yes, technically you're right. If the government has the evidence, they don't need them. But still, it's like, why would you? For a $50 cell phone, who cares anymore? If the person who's injured doesn't care, why should the state care when they have much better things to do with their time? So the fact that they're continuing to go after this when the mother doesn't want to prosecute anymore, it's like, that's weird.
Yeah, but,
So
but
there's two things. I think the $50 cell phone might be not a red herring, but might be a misdirection. It might not be the value of the cell phone, but rather what they did to her allegedly in order to get it. But I'm still with you, Kurt, because it's not with one versus the other. It seems that if the state has nothing better to prosecute than this, and with such a heavy hand, given that it is ultimately not a victimless family dispute, but it's a pretty innocuous family dispute, this seems like so heavy-handed that you would look for other reasons to explain away why it's so heavy-handed.
Well, and maybe it's because of my time as a prosecutor and seeing victims of, let's say, elder abuse, where you do have people of elder abuse who'll say, no, don't charge her, don't do this. And there was a case that we worked on where they stripped that woman. They took everything. They took everything, right? They left her with nothing. And she was saying, yes, I don't want to press any charges. I don't want to press any charges. But when we had the evidence, we filed charges against her daughter, because her daughter had stolen all of her money, and fraudulently too, and we could prove it. Now, I do understand the thing about, maybe the mom, doesn't want to press charges, but the simple fact of the matter is, a lot of times victims don't, especially in these domestic situations. They don't, but you come there when you're the cop. You come there and you evaluate the situation. Well, what happened? She pushed me down and they took my cell phone.
Yeah, that's robbery. That is where I need to know more. Where are we on this in the scale? Are we in a technical letter of the law violation or more? So when we say force or threat of force, by that do we mean category A, where it's technical but not really, or category B, where we really mean it? So category A would be something like, if you don't give me this phone, I'm going to, just words that are just said because it's in anger. Now I'm going to hurt you, but they're not really meant. Or there's a little bit of a tussle or maybe a push. Are we in that kind of category, or are we in category 2 where we're actually shoving someone to the ground and causing harm? Because it feels like this is more category 1 kind of situation.
But that's a factual determination for the jury, right? How far? Because the mom said she was pushed to the ground. So how far is being pushed to the ground, the way she was pushed to the ground? That's a factual determination. I'm just saying on a pure basis of law, was their forced use and was something taken that this woman did not want to take.
On a bar exam, you're right. On a bar exam, you're right. But it's I'm not so sure about the real world.
Well, on a bar exam, I'm saying what I've said 50 times in the past. Anybody who's surreptitiously recording a conversation, I am going to be skeptical of their version. First and foremost, the mother who doesn't live, apparently an estranged mother, or at the very least doesn't live with them, comes to live with them temporarily, is secretly recording conversations between them to which she's a party or present. I'm already suspicious. And it is very easy to exaggerate, but that's the thing. This depends on who you believe in terms of the victims. And you have to believe the person making the claim, on its face. I'm just very skeptical of somebody who's visiting a daughter who they don't live with, recording conversations, and for what purpose. I think everyone's hands look a little dirty, but then the question is, okay, well, we get a complaint. Are they that not? I'm not trying to undermine it. Are they that not busy that they are going to prosecute this to the fullest extent of the law? Somebody sent me a link and said, here's the docket of all the indictments over the last month in Ohio. And there's a bunch that are similar. I couldn't actually access any that were similar. The only indictments I saw on that docket were drug-related, violence-related. I would call it serious crime-related. Not to say this isn't serious, but obviously this is not that serious if the mother is recanting her original story via affidavit of non-prosecution. I'm suspicious when somebody starts recording family conversations and then when it goes south, calls the cops on family. I'm only skeptical.
It feels like everyone got a little bit heated. Things got a little bit out of control. By the letter of the law, yes, it's all these things. But the person who's being charged and the timing of it is all a little bit suspect. Of the fact that it was all under these super secret special indictments, it's okay, that seems a little bit weird to me.
But aren't all indictments, all grand jury proceedings are secret until they unseal them for the arrest warrant, right?
Yeah.
Because we have the so I don't, it's a secret process.
We'll answer this super chat too. What happened to the kids when in jail? I don't know the answer to that. In fact, normally what would happen is you give it to another responsible party, or they would be put in foster care for the time being. I don't know which of those things actually happened.
I don't think they were in foster care. I suspect the mother who was staying with them probably,
who
might have felt tremendously guilty over the weekend, probably watched those kids thoroughly to make sure they didn't get injured.
They for $20 Canadian. Jason,
what's up?
Thank you.
See you again.
Tony Neves. Hi, gents. Let's go. Love the crew. All right, Tony Neves. Thank you, Tony.
It feels like more on the petty side
Ken
of crime.
Davis.
Like it feels like the kind of thing we shouldn't really care about.
Hold on, let me get this last.
Yeah.
Let me just get this. Is the last one. Since everyone got released on their own recognizance, why was my weekend stay in jail needed?
Yeah,
no risk at all. Ken Davis. Go ahead. Go ahead, Uncivil.
Here's an interesting thing. Uncivil. Go for it.
I was just saying. It just seems like this is the prosecutorial discretion. This is a really petty crime where it's like I just don't really have to care. But it's so good for her career and InfoWars because it just leads right into the conspiracies. Because why is there caring?
I actually take objection. Until incontrovertible proof to the contrary, I take objection to the idea that she would set this up deliberately to further the movie. I saw the video. Those kids were legit scared and terrified.
Yeah.
And if I'm going to accuse a parent of doing that to their kids for a publicity stunt, like that guy who said his kid was in the balloon, I need incontrovertible evidence. I'm not going to jump to that conclusion until I have incontrovertible evidence. It might turn out to be good, but what was the other thing? Yeah. Why it justified a Friday afternoon arrest where they could have done it Thursday and been out Friday morning? Because when you go on Friday,
does that all the time, man. They love to do that. That way they can hold you until you get the judge on Monday.
They get your money too, yeah.
But this goes to one of three things. It's either Julian Assange in terms of the timing of these trumped up charges, or it's just straight up prosecutorial discretion abuse because of political leanings, or it's just judicial system abuse, which is one of the things that I've been railing about. Like this. Setting aside everything, if this is just we did it because we could because we're the law, you do it on the Thursday or you do it on the Monday. Millie's not going anywhere with two young kids and a fixed domicile. She's not going anywhere.
But that's second. The only issue with that is it's not about. There's two issues here. There's one about maybe the flavor of the tea. You know what I'm saying? They could have done it this way, and those are legitimate arguments on policy. But I just think as a technical matter. It's like you're in a weird space where you're damned if you do, if you're damned. I do think coincidences don't happen. Them arresting her on that day. That's obviously that's a big red. That's something huge in the room that you got to recognize. Like, hold on, that just doesn't make any sense. But I think at the end of the day, if what they said happened, and those charges don't to me seem to be out of the realm of possibility for what happened. Now, do police and prosecutors overcharge? Yes. They charge you with the highest possible thing to try to get you to plead out. Kurt has said that many, many, many times on his streams, and now can't come here and say that doesn't happen. If you can lay out a robbery, you charge the robbery.
Yeah,
Kurt,
I wasn't trying to say
I've
otherwise.
heard you say that many times. Yes.
No,
I think that's what they have here. That's what they have here. They say, okay, we can charge a robbery. We're going to hit you with a robbery and then try to plead you down to something simple. That's the way the game is played. I know it's not pretty, but this is it. This is
it's not just not pretty. That causes me to lose as much faith in the system as listening to the Court of Appeals arguments in the Flynn case. And that's like, okay, fine. If that's the system is broken, and it's going to be one theory, and I'm putting it as theory in quotes. It's going to be one theory or the other. One of them is going to be true. None of them are good.
Yeah.
And so it's just a question of how bad is the reality going to be. Quote me on that. That's great.
Let me get Professor Chaos. Isn't this stacking charges to force a plea? Yes, exactly. Most would only be charged with domestic battery at most, and that's true. This would be probably just a domestic battery. But what you do, you stack charges to force a plea. I don't think any reasonable person is going to say that's a robbery, right? She's wrestling with her mom with the cell phone. She pulls her cell phone, and the mom probably falls, right? That's probably what happened, that's normally what you see in those situations. So I don't think that's a robbery, but I think that you scare the robbery to get maybe the domestic and get them into counseling. I think that's the way they're trying to play the game. I don't think it's right, but I think that's the game that's being played. Let me get this other. Go ahead. Let me get these last two super chats out. Kid stayed with mom-in-law reportedly. Not to mention, claim was in April. They took a month to fulfill the warrant. Also, I think grand jury weird for this. I think she's talking about the misdemeanor. Grand juries do indict misdemeanors. I hate when they do it because that's what happened to me one time. Might not get to everybody's super chat, so please. That happened to me one time. You go on with the felony and they come back with the misdemeanor, and you're like, oh my God, what happened? And they just do that. Here is Tony, Kid State. Oh, this is the one I just read. I'm gonna read one more until get back to the conversation. Sorry, guys.
No. Get them all before we go back to the conversation.
Okay, Nate would love to know about how being a Leo helped you. I got a real life offer, but I'm split on it at school for law. I did
law enforcement officer.
For school for law. At school for law, right? Oh, that's not law enforcement officer, right?
No, I think you meant how being a law enforcement officer helped you.
I got it. All right, yeah. My 3 favorite moot court judges. Okay, so I don't know if that last one's a question, but being a Leo did help me. It helped me understand how the law really is instead of just aspirationally what I thought the law was. I realized I knew less about the law being an officer than I did. I felt like I knew more about the law when I was just not an officer than I would when I was an officer. So that's kind of how it worked out. And when I became a lawyer, I found out I knew nothing at all when I was an officer. You know what I'm saying? So that's the learning curve. That's what you're going to experience in becoming a lawyer. Because I think one of the biggest pieces for me for becoming a lawyer was thinking like a lawyer, thinking critically, and asking that next question. That's where it is. You know, as a lawyer, you may not know the topic, but you have to be able to get to the truth of what that witness is saying, and that's what we thrive at. You know, it's the argument. It's the last, what they call my constitutional lawyers call it the last Coliseum, because that's where lives are counted, money's changed hands, and people are righted for wrongs. That's the last Coliseum, is the courtroom today. So last one, $20 from Josh Shaw, Cornelius Sweet. I get to buy Nate a drink.
Josh shaved his beard. Josh, that's a new avatar, and you look like you shaved your beard.
Sorry. I went through them all. But do you like that law is the last Coliseum?
Well, no, I like the idea that obviously being a police officer before becoming a lawyer is an asset that 99% of lawyers will never have. I said get a BA or get an undergrad before you go into law, because being a young lawyer with no business sense and with no life experience is a risk. It's a liability, not an asset. And I remember this, like in Quebec. Quebec is like one of the provinces where they don't require undergrads as a rule to get into law school. So you got people coming in out of CEGEP, which you're like 17, 18, 19, going straight to law school. 4 years, you're a lawyer. You're 23 years old. You have no BA. You have no knowledge of business. You have no understanding of the world and human nature. And you're supposed to administer the law in circumstances with which you have no life experience. And it's impossible. So, you know, getting a degree in philosophy, which is what I did, is next to useless, but still better than nothing. Getting a BA where you understand how business works is amazing. Being a cop where you understand how the law applies to people, it's invaluable if you have the option. But
I covet your degree on philosophy, though. It's a subject that I've dabbled in a little bit, and I wish I had more underlying technical education. It's like, yeah. So
well, you're only a patent officer, Kurt, right? Just one of those lovely patent officers who have a highly specialized degree of law and knowledge. Yeah.
Well, I have 2 undergrads because I have a computer science and a political science degree. So I could have done philosophy instead of my political science degree. So I could have,
yeah, you know what? Political science, good for nothing.
Philosophy,
on the other hand.
Oh my God. Well, listen. So at the end of the day, Millie Weaver, I do understand. I don't know. For me, I'm just going to say I'm honestly just I'm not convinced that this was as bad as people are saying it was. I think it's a tragedy for her and the family. But looking at the charges and kind of looking at what happened, it doesn't seem like out of the realm of possibility. If somebody told me they're charging them with that for those facts, I would see it, and I would say they're trying to get her to plead probably to domestic violence and call it a day. You know, because that's what this is. People living with each other. They're related. They've had some violence. Let's keep it moving.
No, and I don't want to undermine. I don't want to underplay or undermine domestic violence. And there's no but. Everyone's stuck together in quarantine for 4 months. You know, if everyone had a camera running 24/7, like Barnes always says, you know, you could find something where you could take a 30-second clip and make it look incriminating if it's not outright incriminating. These are stressful times, but the coincidence. There are no coincidences. You sometimes can't ignore the timing just because it would make you look silly to ignore the timing. But the idea that you have a mother who comes to stay with you, who you haven't seen in a while, who's recording conversations among family, that's where I couldn't get past the original. Like, that's where my red flags would go. I was like, why are you recording conversations? What are you doing with this recording? What do you hope to do with it? And yeah, if someone's in my house recording me on their phone, I mean, I won't steal their phone. I'll just wait for them to be asleep. I'll do it properly.
I don't know. It's sad because now I think you can't call the police to your house to just, settle everything down. If they come, somebody's going to jail. There's a record that, it was back in the days. If something was to happen, now don't get me wrong, sometimes those things went bad, like in a lot of times domestic violence disputes, because too much discretion didn't work in some cases. But I still think when you're out there as an officer, the majority of the time, it's just your physical presence being there. Sometimes when you go into a scene, things are hot. Just people are seeing the uniform, seeing you, everything is okay. Everything is fine, and there was a lot of times where if you're just arresting people by the book, you'll be arresting people every 5 seconds for everything from jaywalking to there's a lot of discretion that goes into law enforcement every day. But I'm not sure about this situation. What happened here? I do think this is an overcharge, and I do think Miss Weaver maybe has a lot extra going on here. But at the end of the day, I don't know if she's been treated differently based on what I've heard. I think it's all suspect. I just don't think there's enough here to convince me.
Yeah, no, it's fair enough. And some people were saying that it's a county that was not predominantly Democrat, so politics might not be at play. But then you look at the individuals. It is an amazing thing, just because like the police show up. Someone said, "Don't call the police." Others say, like, I think when the police show up, what would it take for them to say, "Guys, maybe calm down, have a powwow, but we're not going to do anything"? Like, where do the police downgrade or downplay this to say, okay, this is what's going on, here's a warning, if there's another issue, call us again? Like, what discretion do they have to do that concretely?
Well, you know what, then you start getting to the domestic violence phenomenon, because that's what police used to do before. Like, and then they used to come to a domestic violence dispute, for instance, and the wife will say, no, it just was an accident, that, and then the cop would leave, and the next thing you come back the next morning, the wife has been killed. Right, and that was happening at a high rate. Where cops were going to these places, and when they would leave and not do anything, the husband would get even more enraged at the wife and kill the wife. And so you had that phenomenon. So you started seeing in cities, they started changing their tactics. And law enforcement, what they started doing was making the one must go rule. And you guys might have heard of it, where the place, if you call the police, somebody must come with me. So now when police go to domestic violence, there are clean records kept. If there's any injuries, police now are more aggressive in taking people who, did he hit you? Yes, you must go. It doesn't matter about whether if the wife wants to press charges or not in those situations. It's giving the police more instruction to remove one person out of the household, particularly the aggressor. So that's kind of how it works now.
So good. I mean, that's a good point. So the one must go. So my question is, they show up. There's an elaborate police report where apparently the brother takes the police to the back to show him where he was walking in the back of the property. Why was one must go not done then? Where instead they let everyone go. So okay, whatever. Ostensibly nothing's going to happen, and then go file 4 secret indictments to wait 3 months to get the indictments filed, and then 1 month to execute. Like, why not take someone that day and press some sort of minor misdemeanor charge?
I don't know why they didn't take them and do that. Like, each jurisdiction is different, but I know if you just took it, because the grand jury doesn't only thing they hear is the facts, right? What happened? This is what happened, and the prosecutor says these are the charges we think are good, right? Because the grand jury can say no, and can say no, these charges are way too much. We just hit them with simple assault or something like that.
So
the grand jury, when they get it, that's it. It's, they're the ones who say, okay, robbery is appropriate in this case. Go ahead.
You said Millie's husband or the father of their children was also detained over the weekend?
Yep. Yeah, apparently.
So what was that? What was his responsibility or claimed responsibility?
The indictments, I would have to go back. I think all 4 were indicted on the same 4 charges, which is why the domestic violence was not against a spouse. It was against the mother.
Yeah.
And I think all 4 charges were against the mother.
That's interesting, because domestic violence usually only applies if they're part of the same household.
Well, Nate, you might know this as well. that domestic violence is either it's typically not against the children because that would be child abuse. So it's typically among spouses or partners.
Yeah, but also they have extended it to people who live in the same household. So if your mom lives with you and someone assaults her, that would be considered a form of domestic violence. It's just not limited to the it's expanded to the adults.
So did the mom also? I mean, it must be true, right? The mom also lived as part of the household, but from what this whole thing seems like, their relationship was more fractured. If the mom is going through things, it seems like they don't have that close a relationship. So that's
from what I understand,
it's throwing me.
One article referred to the mother as estranged, which is judgmental. Bottom line, the mother lived in Beverly Hills, lost her job as a result of the pandemic, and came to live with Millie in Ohio.
Yeah, that's classic domestic violence then. If she was living there.
Yeah, sure. Well, she was definitely living there for the period of, and I just say, man, when especially the idea of someone coming into the house. I love my mother-in-law. If you're watching, there's unequivocal.
Don't get in trouble.
No, everyone coming into someone else's house and then recording conversations. What on earth is anyone to expect that they're going to do with those conversations? There's only two good reasons: judicial or extortion. I mean, there's no good reason to record a conversation. And then so apparently, and the mother
on YouTube. Hold on, unless you're putting it on YouTube.
So the mother's she's doing it for reasons which are not yet known. And what was I going to say? It's like you record that conversation. The mother files a police report and then files an affidavit of non-prosecution, which on the material elements contradicts the initial police report ostensibly. It smells fishy, but it is what it is. We'll see where it goes. It's just that it's one of three levels of theories, all of which are equally offensive. Some might be more extreme than others, but thus far, doesn't look like it has anything to do with burglary or theft of classified documents for the documentary. It looks like it has nothing to do with that. So I eat my words, although I don't eat my words because I qualified it. But no, but anything to do with that.
But you know what? But hold on. But I do want to say this: you had a reasonable understand, like based on the facts you had at that time. That's a reasonable conclusion, right? Burglary, and right before the document. So it's not like it was just out of left field. There were facts that could easily lead you down that.
No, sure. But the bottom line is, even if the facts were inaccurate, the analysis is still sound. It's just like, okay, that's good. That analysis waits for another circumstance where the facts meet up. But then, okay, so it has nothing to do with the theft of classified documents. Now it's just a family squabble that leads to prosecutorial discretion of arresting two parents of two young kids and taking them away for 2 days because they took the mother's cell phone and she fell to the ground. I mean, it's all crazy.
Something here just doesn't feel right. It doesn't like add up quite right, because if the mother was estranged, but they let her come into the house to live there presumably for some period of time. So, but then they're having some confrontation, which the mother might be recording. This whole thing, the whole thing seems a little weird. Like, what's going on in this household?
If you're
I've seen stranger things in law, but still, it's like something's a little weird here.
This is target.
And it's not just that you're a cop. You're talking to a woman who doesn't live there, who comes from California to live in Ohio, recording conversations with her daughter, and then complains when she may get forcibly have her cell phone taken away when she is in fact recording the conversation. The only issue is if there is recordings on the phone that they in fact recovered that are damning. I mean, then all bets are off.
Well, and then we can also get into the finer points of whether or not she has the right to record, because we are in a place.
Ohio is a one-party consent state. I looked into it.
Well, but there's another problem that they're inside this woman's home, and there's a reasonable expectation of privacy element. So I'd have to wonder how that factors in. Yeah, if we were in public and stuff, then or even over a telephone maybe, but we're literally inside the woman's home, and as I'm famously say on my channel, the home is special. So it's like, yeah, because this is her sanctuary, she has a reasonable expectation of privacy. Maybe mom's guilty of wiretapping too. That might be fun.
Well, fair enough. But the problem is, if the cops come in and the video on that phone that they were trying to delete that they managed to recover is extremely damning, then I can understand a lot of stuff.
Well, hold on. But just about the reasonable expectation of privacy, that wouldn't work because the mom would have to have been working for the cops. Because remember, the Constitution only affects state actors, so the mom's not a state actor. So she can record all she wants, and then she can just say that doesn't apply to me because I'm not a state actor.
Well, it wouldn't for Fourth Amendment purposes. You're correct there, but it depends how the statute is written in terms of the recording. Because I haven't studied Ohio law since I went to law school there, which was many moons ago, so I've forgotten it all. But yeah, it would depend how the statute is written in terms of the ability to record. Even one-party consent, it's like because the daughter has an expectation of privacy, she may not have a statutory right to record. So I guess we could go look up Ohio law and figure that out. That might be fun.
No, I looked into whether or not it's a one or two party state. That would have been the ultimate of ironies.
You didn't keep looking, man. You had to look another level down, man.
Let's get through some of these super chats. Sorry, I know I've been holding you guys off. Here it says, I had a neighbor that was arrested for reckless driving. Went and checked himself in, bailed himself out, and this is what should have been done. Yes, we agree, Ken Davis. That is what should have been done. It should have been a phone call. Come on down. You need to be arrested. I don't know why they did this. It just did not make any sense. Hold on, I've lost another super chat. All right. Thank you so much, Ken, for your super chat. Next is Tony. Go ahead. You want to say something?
No, I was just saying that it worked out really good as a promotion for the movie. So there's a benefit there, I suppose. But
Joe Arpaio, read this one. This is a good one.
Would Nate, Viva, or Kirk consider doing a deep dive into Joe Arpaio's prosecution, scandal, and pardon? I got a video deep dive by someone to start if anyone is interested.
I realized I know Arpaio was pardoned. I know of the scandal from like a 100,000-foot overview. I know no details. The only problem is, Tony, there are so many more scandals that are contemporary, like right now in real time. To go back to this one, what's the most recent one that's going to come up now? Oh sweet jeez, Louise, I'm gonna go blank.
You got Spygate Part 2 peeking its ugly head out of the
yeah, there's too many current ones that we can learn from. But yeah, I look, if it's a silent month, I'll look into it.
All right, so Tony, I did a deep dive on Flynn. There's only one a month for me. Next month you might get me on this one. This one I'm relaxed. Supposedly, Miles' 4 brothers were also charged. The same as
this turned into a family free for all. Apparently,
yeah. Like, what the hell's going on?
I didn't hear that. I mean, I'm gonna Google it right now while we're talking.
Oh yeah. Those are facts that got to be verified. I'm sorry, Tony. We believe you, but facts.
Things come in many different colors of shades, and it just feels like at least it initially reads like a massive overcharge. It just feels like there was some sort of issue, everyone got involved and now we're going to try to criminally charge everyone when this isn't really a criminal thing in an underlying sense. So it's like the letter of the law is one thing, but it's like, is this really what the law is meant to cover?
Gentlemen, all that I know is I want to focus on this. Who is Millie Weaver, and why should we care if this right-wing journalist is arrested? And who's that beautiful character right there? Oh, I know that dude. Unequivocally, so that no one accuses me of anything, my initial connection to the burglary relating to the documents seems to be unsubstantiated. It was a leap.
You got to clarify it again.
I'm not too proud.
Sargon's mom said that you were her favorite lawyer, Viva.
Yeah.
Sargon's mom said you were her favorite lawyer.
I'm not too proud to admit when my initial, get the facts, get better facts make for better judgments, and mistaken facts make for mistaken analysis. There's no question. Right. It doesn't look like the burglary was related to the documents in the documentary. Done. My analysis was good. I'll just save it for the next situation where that applies to the facts.
Forgive us for our flaws, right? Forgive us for our flaws.
I like the super chat.
Our humanity.
Nice. They should have told us sheriff deputy was for a Black Lives Matter demonstration we live in Strange Times. I'm like, we were stealing the phone to fight white oppression as part of Black Lives Matter. Yeah, that sounds about right. That sounds good. Let's do that.
Oh no, you guys are crazy. I think I got them all. I think so. I think I
did good. You're doing good.
Oh no, I got one more. Thank you for the super chats, everybody. I really appreciate it. You guys are keeping me. All right, so this one is about the sheriff deputies, right? No. Oh yes, this is the one I just read. So we got one more. I just saw you.
That Subaru has turned into the greatest recording studio ever, man.
The sound quality is better than anywhere in my house. I'm never going back to my house.
The recording is permitted because she was a party to be in the company. She was a party to the conversation. If the recording was done in a common area of the home, then she is fine.
Yeah, so that merges Kurt's comment with ours, which was it's a one party consent. Everybody who's thinking of recording a conversation, hold on, let me get serious here. Don't do it until you know if you live in a one party or two party consent state. So it's not as easy as just recording a conversation. It might be illegal if you don't have the consent of everybody to the conversation, and even then, it's a question of reasonable expectation of privacy. So I'm trying to think of a situation. In Canada, I think it's all one party, so we don't have to worry. Unless we're recording a conversation with, I think Florida is a two-party consent state.
Yeah, I think Florida's two-party.
So
I think California is, but I'm not sure Florida is. I think Florida.
There's one. It's a big state in the states. But if you happen to think you're doing something fine, and then which one was it? Oh God, there was a lawsuit. Oh, it was California, I think, because now it's in the Nico Romeo Lacoste where the victim was recording the conversation, but I think it was Florida actually. So, all right, don't forget to hit that and hit that.
Feed the algorithm, baby. Feed the algorithm.
Feed the algorithm.
So now,
as we try to very carefully parse the finer points of what does or does not or should count even as domestic violence, which is always a fun conversation as we're trying to parse these things in the gray daylight of reality. It's like, I don't know that we necessarily need to. I know it's slightly off point, and you'll forgive me for the analogy, but it reminds me a little bit of like disobedience in schools and like school resource officers, and we're criminalizing behavior that is really just for discipline for high school. Like people misbehave and we make it a criminal thing when it's not really a criminal thing, even though it reads on the criminal law. It's not really what the criminal law was meant to do. So it feels like this was not what the criminal law was intended to do based on the facts as best I understand them so far.
And that was the thing I said in my original video, where throw in the domestic violence charge, where I say, okay, well, typically domestic violence is between spouses, partners. But when both parents are being arrested on domestic violence, I was like thinking, who's the domestic violence against? And is it just throw it in and sully up the file like a rape charge in Julian Assange? And because I just briefly looked into it. Domestic violence typically wouldn't be the charge if it was parental abuse against the kids. It would be child abuse. Then I was like, okay. Then you find out that allegedly the domestic violence is against the mother, and the mother is from California, doesn't live with them, comes to live with them for a certain period of time, and is recording conversation. It all gets very suspicious, to the point where you can't blame anybody for drawing conclusions. It's just
maybe it will turn out the facts are a true horror show, and this is, if anything, an under prosecution. So as things develop, who knows what will happen?
Someone said, I don't know if it was a private message or a public message, but this might turn into a reverse Covington kids case. Where they look guilty and turn out to be innocent, and this is they looked innocent, turned out to be guilty. I'll see when we get there. For the time being, given what's going on in the world, the McCloskeys, the Amy Coopers, the letting of looters out of prison. We'll see where it goes, but that's it. That's a good one. So now the question is this: what do we talk about now?
Well, we could talk about the Democratic Party imploding on their nomination, whatever, and Joe Biden being basically dead, and that's his best quality.
Okay,
I don't know what's up with Joe. Joe is just
I've only watched the Amazing Lucas's summary of the DNC because I watched it in 2016. And I didn't even know it was happening now. Like I saw some videos on YouTube. I saw Eva Longoria, reciting the same. Now is the time to vote. Everyone says this year's election is the critical one, but this year's election is the critical one. That's all I know. I didn't even know that it's still going on for night 2 or 3 now.
Yeah. Well, tonight's supposed to be Obama and Harris, but I don't know. I want to hear the speeches. I think Michelle Obama's speech was good. But I'm not sure. I got to hear what Obama said. I didn't really like Clinton's speech too tough because every time I heard him speak, I kept thinking about, because somebody I put on Twitter about the Epstein thing where a girl was rubbing Clinton's shoulders.
Oh my God. I like the part. I like the part where Bill Clinton is saying, "Here's how to behave in the Oval Office."
That's my! Here we go. Obama and Clinton to deliver blistering attacks on Trump's record. The fact that nobody has learned that nobody is interested in hearing Clinton talk is mind blowing to me. It's like a lag on a live stream where like you say something and then 5 seconds later it appears, but you don't realize like in real life when the 5 seconds hits, it's too late now. I'm in touch with people who are not just conservative. Nobody on the left wants to hear Clinton talk.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear Clinton talk.
No, and like, if anybody can find me a liberal Democrat who wants to hear Clinton lecture, talk, moralize, anything, I'd like to see it. As far as I know, nobody wants to hear Clinton talk, even on the left. And they're bringing them out as like the guest speakers. Obama, yes, people want to hear Obama talk. And for right or for wrong, people still like to listen to what he has to say. Clinton, nobody does. And why are they jamming Bill and Hillary down?
Yeah, Hillary says she wants to serve in the Biden administration. That'd be good.
Oh my God, Secretary of State again, right? That worked out from
Chief of Staff, maybe that might be
Chief
good.
of Staff.
Well, actually, Chief of Staff would be really good for Hillary because with Biden being basically dead, she can essentially appoint herself COO and basically run the whole show. So that'll be good. That's the way to get inside this thing.
I don't know how he's going to make it through the debates. I really, my biggest fear. Hold on, let me get these two super chats, but I don't really know. I don't really know how crazy how he makes it through the debates. It's we can talk about that next, but exactly how ridiculous do you find the stolen mailbox conspiracy theory?
Elaborate, Sean. What are you talking about?
I'm assuming this is going to the USPS, getting rid of certain sorting machines and getting rid of certain post office boxes and things like that. And a lot of this has been long planned because of reduced volume in various things. So I don't particularly find it to be a grand conspiracy theory.
But they were reporting on this tonight on ABC that some of the post offices were being vandalized, and they think they had like a couple of them where somebody went in and dismantled all the sorting machines and like 3 or 4 post offices. So I'm not sure if that's what you're talking about, but that was on the nightly news tonight.
Get the postal inspectors around, man. They're the best law enforcement everywhere.
We're trying to cut the post office here, man. We're trying to cut the post office.
No, you're trying to rejuvenate it by creating a pen pal program to artificially prop up a dying industry.
Yeah, the mail is there. But Nate, curious, how big is the police union endowment in New York for Trump? Endorsement. You know what? The police union, I would have been surprised if they didn't endorse Trump. To be honest, if they'd have said we endorse Biden, I would have been like, oh my God, they endorsed Biden. The one, you know what? It's and I'll say this. The police union here in New York City, it's tough when you're a law enforcement officer, because when you're at your lowest, right, when something happens, something goes wrong, and you need somebody to come to your aid and say, no matter what you've done, we got your back. That's the police union. That's the police union in New York City. And that's why the police officers love the union to death. It's not because, the police, I know, and it looks bad because they, even the cops who are innocent, they represent with vigor, and the cops that are guilty, they represent with vigor. But just knowing that somebody, if you go out there and you make that mistake, you make a mistake and shoot that person, or you make a mistake and do that. And when everybody says, we want him gone, we want him to be locked away for the rest of his life, the police union to put their hands on your shoulder and says, we're going to go to war with you. That's why. And if they endorse Trump, that's why they can do these things in a very liberal city and get away with it, because the police officers know when it comes down to it, those are, and they tell you, it's funny because at the graduation for the cops, the police union, he goes up there and he says, look at the person right and left of you. Those are your brothers. Those are the people that you can rely on. This stupid mayor, you can't rely on him. These are the people in this room, in that uniform. Those are the people you rely on. Now get the hell out of here and go to work. That's the police union.
The interesting thing is I think the vast majority of the people support the police and probably support them more now than they ever did before. And the police union coming out to support Trump is going to have a trickle-down effect or a dispersion effect, where there's going to be a lot of people saying now, okay, the people I look to for law and order support Trump, and I see nothing but criminality and disorder. I think it's going to have a big impact, but I don't know what did they do in 2016? Did the police endorse Trump?
I was supposed to, because they're very right-leaning. They're very right-leaning, pro-gun, and whoever's screaming law and order, give police more money. Those are the people who they're going to support, which makes sense. That's more money for police. We got one side saying defund the police, and the other side saying give more money to the police. The police union is for the more money side, and that it just makes sense. It makes sense for the officers, and it makes sense for the union. I think the union has to think about it in that way. Unfortunately, which even though they're throwing away their votes, I think the police union throws away their votes to Republican candidates. If they really wanted to flex their muscle, they would turn them all into Democrats and then beat them at the primary, right? You would say, because now the primary is where in New York where the fight is for political control. It's not at the, whatever Republican sacrificial lamb they have up there is going to be beat because we're just too many Democrats here. So, but we'll see.
Yeah, the whole thing is just a weird thing because I was particularly remarking with Stephen Colbert with Kamala Harris on the other day, and Stephen Colbert was asking questions like, "You were so hard on Biden during the campaign." She does this wonderful cackling thing. Whenever Kamala gets a question she doesn't like, she does this self cackling thing. It's kind of really weird. It's a debate. It's a debate. And it's like, okay, and then Stephen Colbert actually had the temerity. So you didn't mean it? It was a debate. Ha 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 ha. My God. So yeah, you didn't mean it when you said that Biden was preventing you as a young black girl from going to school because he didn't believe in busing. You didn't believe that part. You didn't believe the part when he said, "I believe victims who claim that Joe Biden did things to them." You don't believe that part. So it was a debate.
No, but which means that there's no principles, period. But the bottom line is, I say even in debate, don't say things you can't take back. Joe Biden, you're not racist, and then go into a whole thing. You can't take those things back. And the only reason you can walk away from them now is you hope that Joe Biden would not be the leader in a year if he's elected, in which case you're the leader. So,
oh yeah, well, I think that's basically where we are. I think everyone knows that we're really electing Kamala Harris, right? We all know that, right?
Oh yeah, I think most can agree on that.
This is Dogbert says NYPD law and order enforcing, in my view, unconstitutional gun laws. Yes, the gun laws in New York State are I believe whatever this guy is saying it right. They are unconstitutional. You cannot get a gun. Don't get me started with trying to get a gun in New York City. Yes, they are unconstitutional. Fair enough. I'm not even going to read the rest of your thing because that moved me so much. That piece of it right there. Yes, I agree with Dogbert.
I could just go get a gun tomorrow. That might be fun. Just for
but this is the issue. Is like
Dogbert.
This is how you end up converting the left to the right. At the very least, don't accuse the left of shifting to the right. Just say the left stays where they are and the left shifts more to the left. When somebody wants to get a gun for self-defense, for home defense, and they realize they can't because of the laws that they've been supporting, that turns a leftist into a rightist.
Which is very dominant right now because gun sales are through the roof because of all the riots and people saying, let's defund the police. Gun sales are huge. A lot of first-time gun owners, a lot of people who are opposed to gun owners. And suddenly they realize, getting guns is really, really hard. So I don't know what influence that will have on the election or not, but, it'd be nice if it caused a little bit more.
Let me highlight the really, really hard part of what you just said. In Canada, I sat through a 2-day course of 10 hours a day. Had to pass 2 exams, had to pass a background check, had to wait about a month to get my certificate. Really hard. And then even still, I can only own it for hunting. Like this is in Canada. Really hard is very relative. But yeah, you realize like it's the slippery slope fallacy is not a fallacy. It's the slippery slope.
Right, reality. Absolutely. Well, especially in common law, it's not a fallacy because we all build on top of precedent. So what happened before is influencing what will happen in the future.
Yeah.
Let me tell you how tough it is to get a gun in NYC. First, we got to start with the fee, right? How much was the fee to get your license up there?
The course, I would say, it was nominal. Say $200 or $300.
I think it's like $500 in NYC.
US, which is like close to 800 Canadian.
Yeah, it's like
3 times as much.
And it's like it's pass or fail too. It's not like it's not like you get it back if they don't give you the license.
Yeah, that's it. You lose, and it was it was a boating license, and mine was in French also, so I had to navigate that.
I'm sorry, no, it's $340
US, which is like close to
US.
500 Canadian, so twice as much.
Yes. So another thing is that you have to now get 2 people. If you live with anybody, right? If you live with somebody, you got to get them to sign an affidavit under notarized saying that they okay with you owning the gun in the house.
And just so everyone's clear, a notarized document period is minimum 200, closer to 500 probably.
Really?
To get a notarized document? 100%.
Not that it doesn't cost anything like that in the US.
It's like $3.
No,
Yeah,
you got to go to a notary and then they have them notarize and they put out their form. They put on their 8.5 by 14. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't think I'm wrong.
In the United States, it cost me like $5.
Yeah, it's like $3-4.
Who do you get?
I'm moving to Canada to become a notary.
The notary's got a good racket up here, but okay. Sorry, I may be wrong. I'll look into it, but I don't think I'm wrong.
I mean, you're definitely wrong. I just had to get something notarized because I was opening up a PO box, and from a third party company, so not the USPS, and I get something notarized, and I did online. It cost me off $25 because I was too lazy to go to the store.
So, but now that's a different thing. So we have you have what's the word I'm looking for? You have a commissioner of oaths stamps, which are different. The notaries are lawyers. The lawyers, but they don't practice law. They just practice notary.
Oh, in the United States, they're not.
Nice.
I have an interesting story actually about this for reasons that my psychology is whatever. When I was young, I really wanted to become a notary public. Don't ask why. But when I was in South Carolina at the time, when I turned 18, I became a notary public. So I actually went down there and filed out.
You
the
live in a
paperwork.
dream.
So, yeah,
you live in a dream.
Yeah, living the dream. That's right. I lived the dream of becoming a notary.
Sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah, it was actually not that expensive and stuff. Buying the stamp was the most expensive thing, but yeah. So yeah, they're not lawyers here in the United States. They're just like you do a simple course.
Here they're lawyers. They're just lawyers that don't practice. But we have a commissioner of oaths, which is just a stamp. But no notaries. There's a whole procedure. You get a notarized document. It's got a notarial number, and it's a whole thing. Okay.
Damn. Well, yeah. Here it's just like $5-6. So you got to have the. But it's a bitch going to the notary and getting it notarized, though. You know, it's
That's
not like
why I did it online because it cost me $25 to get my PO box because I didn't want to actually haul my butt out to the place, you know.
Big Sniper 28. The world's best gun salesmen are the left. Yes. I live in New York. I deal with it.
It's supply and demand. Threaten off supply, and you increase the demand.
We got plenty of nice water here in Texas. Plenty of great fishing.
Also,
just, great hunting, great everything.
Let me get back to the other stuff that you need. You also need some other people, right? People these aren't people who live in the house. These are people who know you, who are going to vouch for you, who's also going to sign a notarized document saying this guy can own a gun, right? So you got to get that. Then after you get that, you put an application, got to wait a couple of months. Then they'll get back to you, and then they're going to give you a date to come down to the NYPD. You have to go down there into the interrogation room, and they're going to ask you questions like, "Why the hell do you want a gun?"
Okay, this is interesting. Is this for a pistol or is this for a rifle, or is there a distinction in New York law?
No, there is between rifle and handgun, but I'm talking about just if you want to just get a handgun license, and to keep one at your house.
So handgun in Canada is actually stricter than rifle. So this is why it's like to get a rifle in Canada, like a hunting rifle. I do need to get an affidavit, a document signed by my wife authorizing that I can get one. It has to be renewed every 5 years. So if stuff gets shaky with your wife and she says, no, I don't want one, then it becomes a problem. A handgun in Canada is a restricted firearm. And so you have to get a restricted firearm license, which is different than an unrestricted firearm license. So it's next level.
Well, I'll say this. It's your constitutional right to have a weapon for the protection of your home here in the United States. And in New York, they don't let you do it. You have to ask, you literally have to get other people to vouch for you so you can exercise your constitutional right to own a weapon. And you got to pay a fee, and you got to be interrogated about why you want it.
But Nate, it's not being infringed. It's not being infringed. It's just being regulated. And now Nate is voting for Trump.
But the thing is that see, as somebody who's in the middle, I see this as oppression of my Second Amendment rights to the fullest extent of the law. But I also see if I'm in Texas or now Alabama, and we're talking about abortion rights. I see that is the same thing, just in reverse. I think each side has their thing where they'll say, we're restricted as much we can, even though we know it's infringing on these constitutional rights.
Well,
here,
between abortion and guns, one is mentioned in the Constitution, so we got that going for us.
But you know what? I have a professor. Every time I said that before to a professor, and I had a professor that came back to me. They said, "Is the Constitution an exhaustive list of rights?" Because it says it's not inside there, right? It says it's not. This is not an exhaustive list of rights.
Yeah, the 9th and 10th Amendment certainly speak to that.
So then, who tells you what rights are constitutional, protected?
This is the minute.
Here we go.
This is the minute of the live stream that becomes the highlight. That is a mind-boggling. Amazing.
Next super chat. All right, I'm eating this ice, and I don't know because my throat is dry. So I'm eating ice and trying to keep.
I got ice too. I've been waiting to drink it.
Yeah, Viva over here's got gin, and Nate's got nothing for no reason.
Well,
yeah, I have ice. I have nothing, but love all three of you guys. Thanks for keeping us informed in legal matters in an entertaining way. Thank you, Ryan Stewart. Sorry it took me so long to read that super chat. But I was like, oh my god, it's like. So I put this up like 2 hours ago. Just get to it now. Thanks again, Ryan. I appreciate it. I appreciate the $2 super chat. The next one, I think I have 4 of them. I get a hit. Yeah, here's another one. $2 super chat from the John Beck. NY Police hasn't endorsed any press candidate in 20 plus years. Okay, well, maybe they haven't. I don't know.
I've seen the John Beck before. I know that.
I know they do endorse. They definitely do.
Would you guys like to talk about something that's completely unlaw related?
Hold on. Yeah, right after these 3 super chats. Free from your bank and credit union BMV for your next to nothing. For next to nothing. BMV for next to nothing. I am not sure what this means. Free from your bank / credit union BMV for next to nothing. All right, thank you, Mandalorian Wise 01. Mandalore, right? That's Mandalore.
Yeah, Mandalore. I've seen that. I know that avatar, but I don't know what BMV means.
Mandalore Wise. I don't know. We don't know what the BMV means, Mandalore Wise, but that was wise. Oh. All right, and I got one more. Well, 2 more, but one $2 one. Here we go, and then one right behind this. Nate. Law isn't restricting your abortion rights.
Not Nate's. That's a pure technicality.
That's true. And that's true. I don't have those rights. And image somebody vouching for you being a requirement before you speak. Sad face.
I've never seen Juan's avatar, and I've never seen Juan's name. But it's an interesting thing because in the States, gun ownership is a constitutional right in as much as free speech, not in Canada. But yeah, it's a good point.
All right, well, you were saying something, Uncivil. You said you wanted to talk about something.
Yeah, we can talk about something that's completely unlaw related because I was interested in parasocial relationships because the relationships you have with people that you don't actually know and online personalities is very interesting to me, and my own perceptions of them. And people have this, like, you feel like you have a connection with someone you don't actually know or have ever even really talked to. And I was having this happen to me recently and trying to figure out what it meant about whatever, or my own psychology. And there's an online person that I follow, and they had a very public relationship with another online person that I follow. And a couple months ago, they actually got engaged in late 2017. And recently they broke up, and I didn't find about this because it happened like 2 months ago, and I didn't find out about it until recently, and it impacted me. Like, I want to know, like, why, what happened, like it's in my business, or like I have a personal connection with people. And so my question to you is twofold. It's like, do you have that experience where you in your own life feel like you have connection, and when something bad happens to someone who you've never met and has no idea you exist, do you feel like that same thing, or is it just me? And so that's a good place to start. Do you feel that way?
So an interesting thing. First of all, it's definitely not just you, but I've never even heard the term parasocial before, but it's an interesting concept.
Yeah, apparently this is the technical term that people came up with this. So a social relationship would be presumably what you and I have. We actually talk to each other, and we actually have a relationship where we actually talk to ourselves. So parasocial is where it's a one-sided relationship, like you with your people in the comments, or me with people in the comments, and they feel like they have a relationship with me, but I don't really have a relationship with you.
Yeah, that's so great. I've never heard that. I've never heard the concept. It's an interesting concept, but it also sounds like. I'll venture out. First thing, no, I don't expect anybody, even if it's an actual social relationship, has any obligation towards me. Period. And I have no right to know. They have no obligation to disclose. Everyone's personal life is personal. It is an interesting thing when you live in a social media age and you post stuff online and people think they have a right of observation because you elect to share. But a parasocial, it's an interesting thing. Like, so what would be the consequences? Like, let's just agree that we acknowledge it exists. what's the next step? Okay, so you get to partake in viewing, but not partake in participating.
Well, hold on. Can I just stop right there? I want to go back to this super chat real quick. I just got it. I just got what he was saying. I know it's a little late in the game, but he was saying, imagine someone vouching for you being a requirement before you speak, because having someone vouch for you being a requirement for you to own a gun. So now I understand. Yeah, it's exactly. That's New York. Somebody's got to vouch for me to speak.
I think YouTube is a particularly interesting medium or social media for that matter too, because I think because people share so much of their lives where they can, people who really blog. I mean, it's a little bit more interesting with celebrities, because I've never really felt this way to celebrities, because I don't read like gossip magazines or things like that. So I've never felt like I have a close relationship with a celebrity. But with YouTube, it's interesting because people are sharing so much of their lives. And then when they don't share something with you, at least to me, it's almost like I feel offended, because it's like, I feel like, for lack of a better word, a sense of entitlement to it. It feels like I should, it's just an interesting human psychology reaction. So
of course. The interesting thing is, at the very least, to be sufficiently insightful that you feel entitled, but you're not entitled, but it creates expectations based on past behavior, which is the risk of becoming a public figure to begin with. No, it's interesting. It's weird. Well,
I don't know. I think we all have relationships with people who don't know maybe not know who we are. For instance, it's that like celebrity crush type thing, you know what I'm saying? Where you're invested in the person's success. Maybe you like the song that they played. Maybe you just like the way they designed something, So I think we all get kind of emotionally attached to celebrity, because that's what it's for. It's that look at my life. And now, especially in the time of social media, you're now immersed in the person's life. You watch them every day. You watch them vlog. But but you get like even my daughter, she watches some of these YouTube families, and they have babies, and and they do fun things, and when something bad happens to them, she sits there and she gets emotional and cries, and it's not, and I wouldn't call it a one-way relationship. I just think that she's become invested in their lives, because it's like both people are getting to a certain point. They know they can't reach out to everybody, but they reach out to as many people as they can with their story, and those people who are responsive to that story become fans and and become followers. And I think that's the limit to that relationship. You maybe not be able to have that individual relationship, but you have a relationship of the information they're putting out there to you. And a lot of times the people who we see on the camera isn't the real person who lives their life. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. In fact, to bring this somewhat home to parasocial relationships, there was a somewhat famous example of this that happened very recently, where some YouTubers actually had this reaction from people to the point it's actually gotten attention from press. So there's a couple on YouTube from Ohio who adopted a child, and they documented every step of this process along the way, bringing the child in and so forth and so on. And then apparently they had to unadopt the child. So they gave the child back up and basically went quiet about that part. They didn't document that part. And so there was, I was just Googling around because I was reading an article about it recently, but there's articles about it on the BBC. There's articles about it on BuzzFeed News, The Cut. Today, there was an article on today.com about it, the Stoffers from Ohio and that whole thing. So it's like, so there's so much.
Kurt, was it the family? Was it the it starts with STR, like Strauss?
Yeah, that's the one. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, it's funny. I think I do know of that story, where they adopted a kid who had a form of autism and had issues dealing with it. No, that's the terrible thing about predicating or building the brand on that type of content, which is, first of all, just so we're clear, we're not building brand content on a guinea pig, but on mute. Okay.
I love the guinea pig. I love the. I forgot about mute. I love the guinea pig.
The guiney pig. He seems
Look
like
at this
a
thing.
rat
Everybody,
path to success.
who
Man.
doesn't love this guinea? No, this is the camera right here. That's
Oh, hold on. Let me see if I can put the guinea pig up.
no. There you go. Okay, so now put it down. This is Harry the guinea pig, but it's an amazing thing.
Is it just me, or does that seem like a very hairy guinea pig?
It's a very it is actually called a hairy guinea pig. Okay, good. It's an interesting thing. It's like
he's gonna talk in a mic, maybe.
I am Harry the guinea
Daddy,
pig.
I'll
Oh my
talk
gosh,
up.
how'd that happen? No, I don't control this anymore.
The daddy. Uh-oh, we're locked in.
Okay, there you go. No, so good. So I know exactly what you're talking about. That's a different thing where the brand and the content is created and curated on that very intuitive persona relationship. It's weird, and that's the problem where like you expect people to respect boundaries, even on social media and even on online, where some people don't respect it even though they appreciate it, and others don't appreciate it and therefore don't respect it, and that's the risk. But that's the reality. It's like there's a flip side to being a celebrity, and that is, everybody gets to think we know Angelina Jolie now, and we know she's adopted kids, and now we get to have like a view into what she does with those kids. It's sort of a Truman Show phenomenon.
Yeah. Well, listen, guys.
I think evolutionary psychology can explain this. I'm sorry, you wanted to.
No. I was. Yeah, I'm about to close the stream because it's about 9:15 here, and we have a clear night. And let me check this out. So me and the daughter.
Bring out the guinea pig. Bring out the guinea pig.
No, not the guinea pig. We're gonna go out and see if we can stargaze, even though it sucks in New York because it's like so much. But you can see good stuff. You can see some great stuff. Yeah, we were looking at a couple of stars. So I gotta wake up behind up so we can look at some stuff. So it's being a dad. You guys know how it is. Well, you know how it is, Viva. So Uncivil, you will know soon enough. When the bars
we can find a girl, man. That's what we're doing the streaming for, to find a woman. 5% of my viewers are women. One of them someday.
Well, you see what happened with your. Go ahead.
Hey, it happened to Leonard. He just got married for a second time. In case you missed that.
Yeah, it happened to Leonard
French. Yeah, he met his now wife online and from Discord, and he got married once remotely in Utah, which is hilarious. He lives in Pennsylvania. His wife lives in Luxembourg, and they got remote married in Utah. Neither of them were there because they were separated, obviously, by a continent with travel rules. You can't travel unless you're married. So they got virtual married in Utah, and then he flew over to Luxembourg and they got married in person. So, hey, if it can happen to learn French, maybe it can happen to me. So that's what we're going with.
Very cool. And
awesome.
And Nate, if you need a better telescope, I've got a Celestron up in my closet. I'll send you a picture later tonight. I saw the rings on Saturn, and I saw Uranus. I saw something. I get him right.
No, but you know what? It's funny because we just picked this up. It was like $50. So we're like, let's pick it up, and we just start looking at stuff. So I'm thinking about getting something better because she's now really into it. So now we look at the moon, and we look at the craters on the moon and all that stuff. So it's pretty fun.
Appreciate for $50, you have something better than Galileo had.
I know. Crazy, right? Crazy. Well, listen, guys. Thank you guys for stopping by. Thanks for being a part of the stream. We had like 400 something people watching that.
Great. We're almost
at 500. Yeah. So listen, thanks everybody. Thanks for all the super chats, and I will see you next time for Viva Uncivil Law. Links will be in the description for their channels. I will see you next time. And